Hey gang, what's going on? And welcome to Talkin Vegas All Day with KA. I'm your host KA, and on today's episode, we're going to take a little trip back in time to talk about a hotel that is staying today. To talk about a hotel that is still standing today, under a different name, however. But that's the history of the Monte Carlo. And as special guest today, I have JA join me. Say hi.
Hello.
And we are going to discuss the history of the Monte Carlo. But before we get started, gang, remember, hit that like button, click subscribe, and punch that notification bell so you can get updated when we drop new episodes. But before we get started, let's go ahead. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started and talk in Vegas all day with KA.
Let's go to Vegas, baby. Let's go tonight.
Right now.
Let's go to Vegas. We'll stay up all night.
Up in the
Let's go to Vegas.
So the Monte Carlo started out in 1996 So the Monte Carlo started out in 1996 in a space that was originally the Desert Rose Motel. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
It was originally going to be named the Victoria, after Queen Victoria herself, and was going to be a British-themed resort. It was later renamed to the Grand Victoria, and then back to the Victoria. However, two competing companies, MGM Mirage, who was owned by Steve Wynn at the time, and Circus Enterprises, decided to team up and build the resort instead. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Later, Steve Wynn, the chairman of MGM Mirage, wanted to rename the Victoria to the Monte Carlo. People doubted he would be named that. However, once the board decided on the name, it actually was a favorable vote and the Monte Carlo stuck. Found that very interesting. How about you?
That is interesting. I did not
Could
know
you
that.
imagine that being like a British-themed hotel instead?
I don't know. I kind of like that, to be honest. You
Oh, I
me,
know you would.
I'm kind of an Anglophile.
Yes, you are, and that's a $10 word right there. Anyway, so everybody. Anyway, so the Monte Carlo was part of a 3 mega resort opening in '96. For those of you who don't know, that year was a big boom year. You had the Stratosphere, or what's now known as the Strat, opened up early in the year. Then the Monte Carlo, and believe it or not, what we'll be talking about down the road, New York, New York. So that whole little area was starting to become developed in '96. The hotel and casino was named after the Monte Carlo Casino in Monte Carlo, and was very much a Moroccan-themed resort initially. That was the theming of it. It was a $334 million casino when it opened at 12:01 with a special 12-minute long fireworks show. The hotel would feature 3,000 rooms, 250 suites, a 90,000 square foot casino convention center, pool and water park, shopping mall, a 1,200 seat Lance Burton Illusion Theater, which would later now be what the Park Theater is at. On a side note about the Lance Burton Theater and who Lance Burton is, he was an illusionist and a magician at the time. When the tragic events of 9/11 happened, Lance gave out 5,000 tickets to anyone who donated to the Red Cross. It's pretty cool.
That is cool.
They also had at opening 6 restaurants, including a buffet, a food court, and their own brewery, the Monte Carlo Brewery. Did not know that. I can only imagine that's what it became with the pub.
Oh, the pub.
But we'll be talking about that later. So that's how the hotel was. Now, the biggest thing with the Monte Carlo throughout the early to about 2007 was it really never had an identity. It had the outside was very Moroccan themed, but the inside was, how would you describe it?
Well, it was Monaco, but you know, that European flair kind of, but it wasn't like.
It wasn't like
it was a little bit more nondescript.
It wasn't like
Venetian is like, this is Venice, you know, this is Italy, you know.
Yeah. So yeah, that was always the knock on the Monte Carlo is like while the structure and all that had, but like the restaurants and it was just a hodgepodge inside. In 2007, the Diablo Cantina opened in front and became the most popular Mexican restaurant on the Strip until it closed in 2017. We walked by there so many times.
We never actually went in there though.
No, and we always were like, hey, we should check this place out, and we never did.
I should have sailed.
On January 25th, 2008, part of the Monte Carlo exterior insulation finishing system caused a 3-alarm fire. The fire burned on the top of the hotel, and everyone inside the hotel and casino were forced to evacuate. A total of 7 people were injured. Luckily, no one died. And the total estimate of the fire was around $100 million. It was, and there's actually, if you Google on Google, that there's actually pictures of like the Monte Carlo sign, the one side close to where you would enter, like it was literally on fire. Like the fire went up and caught that on fire. That was refurbished, and in 2009, those floors were remodeled to become Hotel 32, that boutique and suite hotel. It had all suites, it had a lounge, and its own pool. And that's how everything ran till about 2015, when MGM began building was now the Park Theater, and began resurfacing rumors that in 2016, the Monte Carlo would be beginning transition into what is now known today as the Park MGM. Now we will discuss the Park MGM in future episodes. However, today we just wanted to focus a little bit on the Monte Carlo. But since this is Talking Vegas all day, we're gonna, and this was one of our, if not our favorite hotels and casinos in Las Vegas. JA and I are gonna take some time here and share some memories. So let's first talk about what was your first initial interpretation?
My impression?
Yes. So what was your first impression of the Monte Carlo?
Well, it was, you know, my first time staying in Vegas. It was my first time to Vegas, and, you know, the opulence, you know, the lobby, it had that kind of European opulence going on. And I was just wowed. And, you know, when I first stepped out that first night, seeing the Strip, you know, it was just such a cool sight. I think the Monte Carlo always hold a special place in my heart because that was the first hotel I stayed at in Vegas. And it was quite the memorable trip.
Yes.
5-year anniversary, and I had very, you know, much sprained my ankle 4 days before the trip.
Mm-hmm.
So those long walks through the lobby, you know, through the casino to get to our hotel room while I'm hobbling. And, you know, you said I was like the Walking Dead because I couldn't walk
Yes,
quite right.
Could.
My ankle got all stiff, you know, so just that long walk, that always stick in my mind. But it was definitely a trip to remember, you know. And
you know, the thing for me, my first impression of the Monte Carlo is, like you said, the opulence of it, especially on the outside. The thing that got me always was how in the middle where all the games and casinos were, how you walked in that main casino room and how it was just massive. And of course, other casinos are like that. However, this one just seemed like it was such a huge room for this casino. And remember, there wasn't like, you go like Palazzo or other, there's like little nooks, twists, and
lots of different wings.
And like areas and like columns going down, or like just different areas of restaurants in between or something. This was just like a big room.
It was open concept.
It was very open concept, and everything was the size. Remember, I found that really interesting. The other thing I thought was always good was, you knew how to get in and out of places, but there was always that weird like area you didn't know which hallway you were going to go into. Like if you wanted to go to the pool, it was always straight ahead, but if you wanted to go to like catch something like the pub or get on the tram to go over to Aria or Bellagio, you had to go to this one, and then if you wanted to go to the front desk, it was this one. So I always remember that first couple trips we were always so confused about. And then the elevator was like hidden.
Yeah.
Remember like the elevator was like, there was like that gift shop. I just remember like, it was like really easy to get around the casino part, but the hotel part was just funky. But I always loved the opulence. What would you say about the rooms? The rooms were very simple, but they were always very comfortable. I always thought the beds were nice. The bathrooms were great, and the showers were really nice. They had those nice walk-in showers.
Yeah, it was nice. I mean, was it blowing my mind? No, not necessarily, but it was nice. I mean, it wasn't like when I walked into the Cosmo and I'm like, wow, this is incredible. But no, the Monte Carlo had nice rooms, comfortable. I had no complaints. Bathroom was nice.
I always liked how you could plug your phone in and stuff at night. They always had some nice little features within the room.
There's some nice amenities.
Yeah, it wasn't like over the top, but for what you were paying for, it was nice.
It's like a mid-level one,
Yeah. What did you think about the pool?
Oh.
I know you have a lot to say on the pool.
The pool, okay. So the Monte Carlo pool, I am the connoisseur of pools. I'm all about the pools when we go to these hotels. And Monte Carlo pool was by far one of my favorites, if not my favorites. And I've been to the Mandalay Bay pool. I've been to MGM Grand. I've been to all over the strip. I think the only one that rivals it to me in my mind is the Golden Nugget. Okay, I mean that pool is epic, but Monte Carlo's pool had a really fun vibe. They had a DJ, they had the wave pool right there. There's the lazy river, which at times it could be annoying because people taking up just kind of standing in there taking up room. But for this part, you could just cruise on down that lazy river. There was separate other pool that was just kind of a pool, and it was chill. There's the hot tub, but it was just kind of a fun vibe there. And it wasn't ginormous. It's basically kind of it's a smaller version kind of what's at Mandalay Bay now.
Well, you remember when we read that Steve Wynn used Monte Carlo's pool was the test pool.
Yeah.
Like they actually designed that to become what was Mandalay Bay's pool.
It's like the prototype.
It was the prototype. For me, what I always liked about it, and me, I'm kind of hit or miss with pools. You obviously are the pool connoisseur in Las Vegas. I kind of can take it or leave it. I did enjoy the lazy river. I did like the setup also because they had shaded areas. So when it was like 110, you could go get sun, but there was also that shaded area when you first walked in that was pretty much shaded. But yeah, you're right. It was a nice little party atmosphere. There was a nice deck area. I also liked how the pub had that little outside seating area, so you could sit out there and have breakfast when they started serving breakfast towards the end, or even lunch or whatever, and just kind of take in all of the people watching. It was a very nice for what it was. And then you look at like something like New York, and they're like kind of were built at the same time, and their pool's like just this little dinky community pool.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. It was kind of cool sitting there, and you see the roller coaster going by and everything, but it was just kind of like, it's a pool. Yeah,
of those pools, like even the Aria's pool, like even the Cosmos pool. I mean, like all those pools, they're just kind of cool.
It's a pool. I mean, did it have like a ton of personality? No.
This one was like one of those mid-level casinos on Center Strip that actually had a pool outside, like the Flamingo or some of those that actually had a little bit of like,
fed features.
Yeah. So, let's talk about restaurants. Now, there was a lot of restaurants we were there. We didn't really eat there a whole time. We went to that one place, Dragon Noodle, and we like waited like 20 minutes, like remember for like ever, because I think they were just opening up, and we had like appetizers before dinner. That was nice.
I think I had the wonton soup there.
The pub. I mean, we can talk about the pub. I mean,
the pub was my favorite.
The pub was probably, and this is the thing I just covered guys about the craft beer scene, and I said the Strip really didn't have much. The Strip there for a while, between 15 and even about 3 years ago, did have a nice craft beer presence, I thought. And like the pub was one of the first where it had like 100 beers on tap. Now, you'd be lucky if they had 50 on tap, because you remember, we'd be like, you want to try this? Oh, we don't have that anymore. But their food was good.
Yeah. Breakfast, the chicken and waffles, that was my
like
go-to.
that.
But yeah, the beer selection, you know, when we first went when we went for the first time in 2014, it was, you know, it was pretty good still.
It was really good.
But each time we went, I feel like there was less.
Yeah, and there was always like talking to the guy, oh, well, they might be selling this. And so like even back then, they knew something was going on. And but like you could tell prior to even when we went, it probably at one time was probably the place to go. It had definitely a cool vibe with like the sports kind of like really brew house atmosphere. I really loved it. And again, you could get some really good craft beers there.
We did the buffet the first time we were there.
Yeah, and you know what? Like that was coming right off the Wynn buffet, so obviously expectations were going to be things. But for like just a regular buffet on the strip, I mean, you can do a lot worse from what I've heard. I've heard it just was it wasn't bad, it wasn't great, but it was just an average.
Middle of the road, yeah.
Yeah, and it was good. Also, they had the ramen bowl place. Remember that? I went down there that one trip. And I'll be honest with you guys, that was one of the best ramen bowls I've had in a while, especially in Las Vegas. And apparently it was the best place in Las Vegas to get ramen for a long time.
They had the pizza place, which we never
went
got
to.
from.
Went to that Barrel, what was it?
Oh, Double Barrel?
Double Barrel was a fun time.
That was a fun time.
That was a cool little bar, and you know, it was great that Meg and my sister and I, all of us got to go out on that.
They had the ladies' night.
That was fun. And then that Samba Latte was good too.
They had the ice cream place.
And then the ice cream place with the sandwiches that we all went in that one time. Yeah. That was really nice as well. I like that they had what was it? It wasn't buvets, and now it's buvets. They had it's where Juniper, that lounge,
they had the steakhouse over there where the Juniper Lounge is now.
And then they all...
Oh, yeah, the Brand Steakhouse.
Steakhouse, we never ate there.
No.
And then they had that, like,
then there was the food court, which we definitely hit up.
Yeah, and then, of course, the 50,000 Starbucks around.
Well, there were two Starbucks.
Remember, there was a Starbucks, and then you walked through the shopping mall, went down that, like, steps, and there was that crepe place we always wanted to eat at.
And then we never did.
We never ate the crepe and gelada place. And then you went down the steps after you went by a Starbucks into another Starbucks.
Yeah, there was the Starbucks when you're on your way to the tram. So,
yeah.
You know, to the one way to Aria and all that, but then there was the Starbucks more of like by the food court where there was McDonald's, there was Johnny Rockets or something. There was
no, it wasn't Johnny Rockets. It was something.
There was Nathan's.
Yeah.
There was a Mexican one.
There was a Mexican one. There was the McDonald's.
Yeah.
And there was that China.
There's Chinese. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the restaurants weren't. And they had that Andres we never ate at. It was like that fine Italian French place that actually had apparently good reviews. So yeah, I mean they had there again. It goes back to what we were talking about. It just had a hodgepodge of different restaurants.
And then the little shops and everything.
That was what I was going to get to. Was the shops. You know, the shops were just little boutique shops.
Street of Dreams.
That's right. It was called the Street of Dreams. And I just remember they had that Lick place.
Yes.
Where we got like all the chocolates and stuff. And then they had that one store across from my parlor that always had the Giants merchandise. And I always wanted to get those really cool, like, different San Francisco Giants stuff. And like, yeah, never just happened. And then they had like
the women's clothing store, which is like
and then
all
they had
over
that
Vegas.
perfume store. They had like that perfume accessory store too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the stores were pretty much what you would see a lot of them. And then gambling, but we never really did a whole lot of gambling at this.
Not a ton, just a little bit of the slot machines, but you know.
The averages, we never really won anything because it was a strip to go out to. So, but the casino was just your typical average casino. I always thought it was busy. I always had good action going on, and people seemed to be having fun. And then we had let's talk about two other things before we close today. First off, the smell of the Monte Carlo, which I forgot to put a diffuser on. The smell was really what got you at the Monte Carlo. It smelled like cinnamon. And
it was kind of a vanilla, like, well, we had the actual scent, so you can get it from Aroma Retail.
Or you can get from Bath and Body Works.
Bath and Body Works, there's like, you can find like, similar scents to it. But I did find a candle a couple years ago. They don't make it anymore. It's called Salted Oak Bonfire. It smelled exactly like the Monte Carlo, but it's pomegranate and sage is what their smell is. And when I smelled the diffuser thing, it smelled a little bit different, but then I realized it's probably because of all that cigarette smoke smell covering up some of it.
I don't know. I remember when I was at the airport, and it's funny how that is. Like, I just walked by the diffuser, and that was the smell of the Monte Carlo. I remember that totally being the smell. So I would say for its time being, I think the Monte Carlo had the best smell on the Strip in terms of a hotel. Now noses differ, but yeah. And then finally, the fun elevator trips where we would always wait. So one of the funniest things is they had these ads on the one little TV screen, and most of them do, but there would be like this ad, and then it would show like the MGM thing, and then this big, long, and was loud song would just come on and be like, dun, 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 dun. And then it would go into like all the other things. It was just, and for whatever reason, we had, like, when we're checking out like 3:30 in the morning to get our flight, you're half awake and this song will come on. It was
yeah, that's just our stuff.
Yeah, like that's one of the things I remember. People are like, what do you remember about Monte Carlo? Well, it's the smell and it's that elevator song. So in closing, the Monte Carlo's missed because I remember when I went out and you weren't there, and we went out probably like 2 months before they were going to start the commission. Like, remember we walked in, they had already moved the registration tables, and the brand was closed on all the front restaurants were closed.
We were there like towards the end with your family.
It was literally like a month or two before we were closing. The reason we stayed there was we just wanted to get one last shot. Like, remember
we couldn't even use the pool because we had to go use.
The pool was closed.
They had us
the pub
use
was
MGM.
closed.
Yeah.
And it was really depressing, to be honest with you. Like, the smell was kind of still there, but it wasn't. Like the sound, remember, like we were waiting for it to come, and where they had it was like fizzled out. Yeah. And they had like one or two things were starting to open. The Park Theater obviously was there, and but they'd started to play. And then when I went back about a year later, like they had already transferred over, and it was just like you walked in there, and it really was like you just walked into a place that you knew, and you knew what it was, but it really wasn't the same. You're like, what is this place? So I don't know if we'll ever stay at the Park MGM. I have mixed feelings about it.
I mean, we like some things at Italy. We want to check out Best Friend,
I mean, Best Friend, yes, and they have the other newer place.
And we enjoyed the one bar there.
And hey, gang, I think when we go back here, what we're going to do is we're going to do a live video walkthrough of the Monte Carlo Park MGM, just so you guys, and we'll reminisce about where things were. I think that would be kind of a fun thing. So anyway, guys, well, that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank my guest, J.A. And make sure on your way out to hit that like button, click subscribe. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And as always, I'm K.A., and we'll catch you next time on Talkin Vegas All Day with K.A.